Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another On Texas Football Friday live stream. Thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate you guys. We got my man Jerry Hamilton, the man, the myth, the legend, joining us. The young phenom, lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis. Oh, from South Dakota, Joe Z. I like that, man. Yeah, I'll tell you. Hey, I know it's football season, so they're gonna be coming from far and wide. We all agree.
I thought he'd be checking in from Eugene, Oregon. What's wrong, Josie?
Hey, we welcome everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. You know how this works, right? Friday live streams a little bit shorter, so get your questions in. Super chats, jump to the front of the line. UT boy, what's up? You can interrupt the show at any time with a super chat. You know how that goes. Throw them out there, but we'll try to get to as many questions, comments, concerns as we can on the show. We'll talk some recruiting. Of course, we'll talk a lot about Texas football with the CJ Baxter loss. Of course, there's still some Longhorn fans processing that. We'll help you process. I'm feeling actually pretty good now. I'm on the other side of it. All right, it's like those, what they say, the stages of grief. All right, I'm toward the final stages of this thing. I'm feeling pretty good. How are you guys now in the kind of stages of processing the CJ Baxter loss? Where are you at, Jerry?
Well, look, I think this is what Sark and these guys get paid a lot of money to do, right? They've proven they can adapt at Texas, and there's definitely an adaptation here, Rod. I haven't been on one of these live streams with you since CJ got hurt, I believe. I mean Baxter. And I think that, look, it changes the offense. It is what it is. I mean, we can't act like that's not part of this. We can't act like it doesn't change what Sark in his head and that offensive staff, when they had meetings, visualized. We can't act like that didn't exist. It's not plug and play, Rod. You know that. I mean, if Quentin Jammer got hurt, you're a different player than Quentin Jammer. It's not just plug and play. There's differences between guys. And so that's what they get paid to do, adapt. That's why you recruit. And, look, I thought Kyle Flood, I said this morning, I thought Kyle Flood said something when asked about Jordan Whittington that I think will come into play if Cedric Baxter's losses felt more than we think in some ways. And we won't know till the season starts because I do think his football intelligence is about a 6-star rating. What Kyle Flood said about Jordan Whittington is you can replace the production, but you may not be able to replace the player. Jarrett Gibson can run the football really well between the tackles. We've all seen him physically. I watched him in high school with the IMG. He can run the football. Jarrett Gibson is a tough 20-year-old with a 30-year-old body, right? And he has got good vision. He's got really good feet. And, Rod, we haven't talked about this, but playing at IMG with Jarrett Gibson, and I'm not saying Christian Clark won't be a part of it. I'm just talking about Jarrett Gibson right here. Here's Jarrett Gibson's, I believe, junior year highlights. In practice at IMG, you're playing against 11 Power 5 level players.
Yeah.
So what happens when you play against 5 Power 5 level players in practice? Somebody's in your peripheral all the time. The holes are pinching a little quicker than they do for most high school backs in a practice setting at IMG. And I've seen it. Those guys live in the freaking backfield. Even when you have J.C. Latham and Tyler Booker and some of those guys on that IMG offensive line, the front 7 guys at IMG have just been good for so long. So he's accustomed to the things in his peripheral changing quickly. He's going to run the football. He's tough. But what comes with the rest of it? Is he ready? What made I thought Cedric Baxter so valuable is he knew the offense like a 21-year-old when he, by the first game of his freshman season. And that's why he started. There was a comfortability with him to kind of help make it all go. So that's what these guys have to step up. But this is why Sark gets paid the money. Look, there's Jarrett Gibson, great balance. Hey, look, I'll say this. Florida kids they're tough runners. I've never come across a running back from Florida wanting a tough kid. I'll say that. Look, they got the talent. It's just going to change what they do. That's the whole thing. They're going to have to scheme this up a little differently than they were before in their plan when they put this season together. And that's part of coaching, man.
Love it. CJ, where you at on process? I like Jerry's take on that too. Where you at on processing the CJ Baxter loss for the season?
Yeah, I'm still maybe not as far along as the two of y'all. I would say I still think this is.
That's because you're a CJ.
I got to stick together.
You're taking it more personal than us.
That's right. I'm still, when we log off of this, Rod, this light turns off and I don't leave the room. It's raining up here in Dallas right now. I'm sulking still a little bit, but no, I still see this as a significant loss, and it is, right? He was expected to be your number one guy, him and Jaden Blue. That what made that package so significant was the two of them together, right? The offset of the CJ Baxter and the speed of Jaden Blue, right? It was going to be your lightning and thunder per se kind of approach. With that gone now, as Jerry was saying, I mean, someone has to step up. And what gives me solace a little bit is, there are bodies there, whether it be Trey Wisner, whether it be Christian Clark, whether it be Jarrett Gibson, as we've talked about. What concerns me a bit is around this time a year ago, and I mentioned this to you yesterday, Rod, is the hype and kind of the, acclaim that we're hearing in practice almost every day now about Ryan Wingo was what we were hearing a year ago about CJ Baxter. And those whispers around this time of, could he be the running back number one by the start of the season? And then after the first scrimmage he's definitely going to be the running back one. And then after the second scrimmage, there was no question, right? And that build up to week one was, that's your guy. He is your first back on the backfield with your starting 11. And that was great. That's what helped set him apart. And that was, again, what helped build up those expectations into year two to become the almost undisputed number one back for the Longhorns this fall. Whereas, again, you have a few more bodies this year, but I don't know if you're hearing that kind of same excitement or hype or even, practice reports about the freshman back. So it's going to take a little bit more of a leap than rather just saying, yeah, you can just plug these guys in and have the similar results. Because, again, there's more of a nuanced understanding of the offense for a year two or year three back with the Jaden Blue in the picture as well than coming in and just running the ball for 2 plays, coming out and waiting your turn again. I think, again, it's going to be felt. I'm not sure I'm going to feel that next stage of grief, Rod, to your point, until after maybe this Saturday when we start hearing a little bit more about the practice details and the scrimmage updates and maybe going into the scrimmage number 2 of fall camp, just to get a true understanding of what these guys can do, not only with the ball in their hands, but without it. Are they lining up in the right spots? Are they running the right routes? Are they blocking the right hole whenever they're asked to sit in and protect against a linebacker or an edge blitzer, whatever it might be? That's just the next part of it. Jerry's seen CJ Baxter in person several times, and the big report again, it was when he was injured. Jerry, I'll let you tell the story if you want, but when he was injured at Edgewater, still sitting in there at every single snap in practice in which he wasn't participating in, to get the calls, to help his teammates, to understand what he would do if he was on the field. That's a different level of understanding. So I do think it's still significant. We'll see again after this Saturday what that kind of return is out of the running back room. So I think by this time next week, I think I'll maybe come back down off a rung or two from the ladder or off the ledge, if you will. But again, I still think it's pretty significant for what this offense in its entirety, personality-wise and ceiling-wise, will be this fall.
Okay, yeah, and I maybe something that's influencing my perspective on things. And shout out to Alan on here who brings it up, as well as Pablo brings it up. When I did Third and Longhorn, and we got a chance to do an interview with Trey Wisner. So he's got that dog. He's got that
no
spirit,
doubt.
Yes, that you need, that really makes that running back room special. That next man up mentality. And by the way, just full disclosure, the interview we did was before the CJ Baxter injury. So it was not like, hey, we did that and then, that's just so you know, I don't even know if I was supposed to say that, but it was before the injury. So it was just kind of, like I said, it was serendipitous, if you will. But he's the right dude for this situation. I think in terms of the way that he's developed and his mindset, his maturity, he's the perfect guy to be in this situation. And that running back room, like I said, guys, I just think you're in good hands pretty much with that running back room. But I agree with Jerry. I think the scheme changes. My pony package I love so much, that's probably not going to be, something you increase in usage from last season. Sark was asked about whether you're going to throw more. I've said I think your early down pass rate should increase a little bit, give a little bit more responsibility to Quinn. He's your third-year starting quarterback. If you're going to make an adjustment, why not make the adjustment to put more on his plate? Because I know that he can handle it. So I think that's something you would look at too. We talked about the young backs who are coming up, and we'll get into it. But Sark was asked if he trusts them to be able to run in between the tackles, which is something honestly I was worried about because CJ Baxter is your best runner in between the tackles. He said he likes those young guys in between the tackles. He said they're pretty good. Jerry, you would know. I mean, that something that the young guys would be able to that translates really quickly for them, that running some of those? Because I remember CJ Baxter talking about that he ran a lot of gap man, like power concepts in high school. So he said one thing he had to adjust to was the zone. When I talked to him, he's like, no, I have to adjust to the zones concept. Once I kind of mastered the vision of the zone, the patience of it, he said this kind of a reset, there's a rhythm to running in the zone. And I was like, there really is. He's like, there's a rhythm to your first few steps, all that kind of stuff. But he said with power, it's more downhill. And that's what he ran. So for these young guys, I don't know what they ran in high school, but maybe they'll be more compatible with some of the like duo and some of the power concepts that Texas is going to run inside.
I think Jarrett Gibson's a really good fit in the run scheme with Texas. And look, here's the thing he's got going for him. And one, he's very compact. Rod, you saw him. I mean, he's 5'9" and a quarter, 205, 210 pounds. Behind large humans, he can kind of hide. Yeah. Hide, or make a read, and kind of dart. And is he going to have the fall forwardness to him? That's one thing you have to adjust to. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for these running backs, Rod, is, and I think one of the things that helps with Jarrett Gibson again is when you play at IMG, man. Sometimes if you're a really good high school running back, and you may not get the sudden movements in your peripheral all the time at the high school level. If you're a really good running back, and I remember being at the Under Armour game when I was ESPN Under Armour. And Leonard Fournette was late to see the cutback in the Under Armour because everything was in the practices and game. Everything was happening so fast around him. And I took note of it. I was like, wow, that was a change from what we saw. Like if you went and watched him on a Friday in St. Augustine High. So I think Jarrett playing at IMG, that really helps him because look, the whole front seven was powerful level players. They're always playing on your side of the line of scrimmage in practice, highly competitive. So I think Jarek is used to all that stuff in his peripheral. I really do. The biggest thing is everything else that comes with it. I think he's going to run the football fine. I think Christian Clark, they're different runners. Jarek is, I think, it's just a really good in between the tackles runner. I think Christian Clark, he has the best running back frame in the program. I think Christian Clark junior year stuff. Neither one of these guys put up much senior year stuff. What he does so well, he's a violent cutter. He has got that jump cut, skip cut, stick his foot in the ground, and it's violent, going from left to right, right to left. And you see that in a lot of his runs right there. He's got that stick your foot in the ground violence to him. Wow. So him and Jarek are different players. But I think they're both really good runners. I don't question the running part. It's the everything else part that's the hardest thing about being a freshman running back. And for the fans that kind of say, well, was Cedric Baxter a really good player? The reason a guy like Nick Saban said at SEC Media Days Cedric Baxter was the best running back they went up against last year was because he was so good in all of it. Like that's what impresses the college coaches more so than a fan a lot of times is they know this guy knew everything. Sark and Saban talk, and I'm sure this guy knows the whole playbook. He knows everything. We don't have to worry about anything when he's in the game. Yep. That's the thing with not all players have the same natural football intelligence. Sometimes it takes them longer, and that's what these guys are just going to have to prove out. But the running in between the tackles, the run game stuff, I think Gibson's a great fit, and I think Christian Clark's an extremely talented guy with a tremendous running back body type.
Yeah. And, kind of watching some of these highlights, actually, you feel a little bit better about, the situation, even though you lose Cedric Baxter. These young guys are really talented. And you almost forget that Jaden Blue at one point was the best running back in the country, or at least rated as such. And I think ultimately, like I said, we'll be fine. Go watch the third Longhorn interview that we did with Trey Wisner. You'll be impressed enough by him. It'll make you feel better.
Rod, talk about this, Rod, because again, I haven't had a chance to ask you this. So Jaden Blue, Trey Wisner, 1 and 2. Okay, so it's not plug and play. They're different guys. Everybody has different strengths. But talk about how Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark's world changed 3 days ago because they were sitting there at 4th and 5th team hoping they played against Colorado State, right? I hope I get some touches. Man, I hope I get to play. I hope I make the travel squad to Michigan. Now their world changed. They're now being accelerated by Tashard Choice. They're running with the twos the whole practice now. Yeah. And now they're a player. One of those guys is one injury away from being number 2. There's not as much margin for error now for Sark and the staff with the Baxter injury. So their world changed 3 days ago.
There's no doubt about it, Jerry. You're right about that, man. I could just imagine these young guys who were probably feeling, and that was the first happened on the first day of pads, basically.
Yeah.
First day they put on pads. So they probably were thinking, all right, you know what? Hey, man, we're just going to try to contribute, especially in that running back room where there's a culture of guys paying their dues and the meritocracy rising through the ranks. And then, the starting running back gets hurt. CJ Baxter gets hurt. And I'll tell you, I think ultimately for them, everything's moving fast. Like I said, It was already moving fast as a freshman and whatever level they were working with. And now, like you said, they're probably getting reps with the 2s, maybe even a splash or reps with the 1s. And I guarantee you, we talked about this, CJ, you and I, that Sark, because he wants to get it on film as soon as possible so he can coach it up and then see which one of these guys can separate because they have to be on an accelerated rate of development. So we're now on an accelerated timeline for both of them. They're probably getting blitzed a lot. They're probably throwing some really exotic pressure packages at them. They're like, hey, dude, we never seen anything like this. I thought you were going to – this ain't bringing them along slowly. So they're probably getting, I don't know, ball security. There's probably a lot of emphasis on ball security for these young guys. So a lot of the things that they're being probably coached up on the most has nothing to do with them running the rock.
Right.
It's all alignment and assignment sound, being in the right place. Like you talked about, CJ, it's blitz pickup, pass protection. Do you know about the different pass protections in different scenarios? And it's about probably ball security. Those are the things that the coaches are worried most about. And like you said, with a guy like CJ Baxter last year, he had a maturity in his game for all those things. And so, it came naturally. The easiest thing for these guys to do is to run the rock. You hand the ball off to him. There's just
that's the natural.
No doubt in my mind they'll be great, especially behind that Texas offensive line. It's the pass protection issues, ball security, and ultimately with Sark's offense, which is so sophisticated, the shifts, the motion, so much of it. Can they be in the right place? Are we talking about pre-snap penalties because these guys don't know where to line up and don't know where to be? So those are the things, and right now that's being drilled. So it went from moving, pretty fast now to essentially they're on. Hell, it's like NASCAR. It's like F1. It is. They're drinking through a fire hose right now. So which one of these guys can have the game slow down for them the most? That's probably who's going to end up, separating a little bit from those 2 freshmen. And it doesn't mean that the other guy's not going to be good or anything. But like you said, Jerry, some guy, one player just may get it better. They may have emphasized some of that stuff in high school, so he already knew about some of it. Some of that may translate. It may be that, one guy is willing to put in more work than the other guy. Like we just don't know. Doesn't necessarily mean the upside and the ceiling isn't higher for the other guy. But right now, the coaches don't have the benefit and the luxury of worrying about the developmental curve. There's like whoever can pick it up first. That's the guy we're going to put in this rotation because we need a body. We need somebody we can depend on, somebody we can trust. And so who can earn the trust the fastest?
I look at it like this, right? Both of these guys, park their cars at the airport, parking garage. They walk inside and instead of just moseying down to their gate or their terminal, right? They have to hop on that little conveyor belt that gets you there a little bit quicker. They're eventually going to get to that point, but now because of the injury and because of, a spot that's opened up, their flight's leaving a little bit earlier. So they got to, hurry it up a little bit. And so that's really where I'm looking at it. Of course, I agree with everything, right? These guys with the ball in their hand is going to be the least amount of worry that we'll have, but it's everything else. And I think to an extent, you could point to maybe a ball security kind of being an issue playing against some stronger, faster, more physical defensive linemen, linebackers. But at the same point, it's instinctual now to what these guys can do with the ball in their hands going against defenders. They're going with the second team offense right now. It'll be them two and Arch. Right now, again, I've heard Jarrett Gibson's maybe a tick or two ahead of Christian Clark at the moment. Again, and Jerry pointed this out earlier. It makes a lot of sense, right? From IMG Academy, that's basically a small college in itself. The program and the way that those guys prepare for practice, scrimmages, and games is a little bit different than what you'll see from a normal, typical 3, 4, 5A, 6A high school, wherever it is in the country. It's just a little bit different. That's just a matter of the fact. So I do see Jarrett Gibson being that number 2 right now. Him and Trey Wisner, again, just splitting reps, making sure that he's 100% ready for when this season kicks off to step in, should need be, because running backs, it's a tough spot to predict injuries at, and it's one which, unfortunately, there's plenty of injuries at. So these guys are going to be ready. Choice, we've proven that. Sarkisian, he's proven that. It will be interesting to see what kind of returns we see coming out of Saturday's scrimmage, number 1 of the fall camp.
Yeah, Sark also admitted after the scrimmage he will evaluate or reevaluate whether he should switch positions for a player and maybe add another body to the running back room by changing positions for someone else, potentially a wide receiver or someone like that. He said he's open to it, but he doesn't know if it's necessary right now to think about doing something that extreme or drastic, but we'll see. And Jerry, who's your thoughts about if he did switch someone's position to running back? Who's the best candidate for that?
My first thought would be it's not somebody that will actually play. If he has to play, that's probably the season's not going great health-wise for Texas at the running back position. That means you've had another major injury. Tough call, really tough call on that. Darian Gillett's been thrown around a little bit. The tough thing with that when you think about it is, Ty Anthony Smith played some running back, but you don't want to stunt these guys' development at their natural position and the position you really need them at long term. Mm-hmm. That's the tough thing for me is, do you want to have Ty Anthony Smith or Darian Gillette as your 5th team running back and then them not take defensive snaps all season in practice?
Yeah.
That's a tough thing for me because those guys they're just as important for the future of this program at the positions they're recruited to play, especially what we're hearing about Ty Anthony Smith early on, right? Yeah. So that's a tough one for me. And some people this morning asked about Ryan Niblett. Well, you'd only move Ryan Niblett to that position if Jaden Blue went down. So but you're not moving Ryan Niblett to running back to have a body when you lost your biggest back. That to me is not really what the answer would be. If you ever see a guy like a Niblett who played running back all over the place in high school, that probably means somebody else got hurt, and that's not what we want to have a chat about. So, I don't know. If these guys stay healthy, they're going to be fine. But this is why I feel like I want to let the chat know this. We're not just talking about Gibson and Clark this much. We're just kind of giving a second look at those guys, a fresher look at those guys. Because here's the reality about the running back position. Guys are going to get nicked up. Jaden Blue, Trey Wisner is going to get nicked up this year. So there's a chance one of those guys misses a game, misses some time in games. It's football. It happened last year. Baxter, Brooks. You hope it's not a season ending for somebody else, but they're going to get nicked up. So what do these guys really look like? To me, that's the question. I think, and then who could fit what Sark, if Sark wants to, if one of these guys will come on and is close enough, what could fit to where he could still use Jaden Blue how he ideally wants to use Jaden Blue? Because the thing with Baxter and Blue that made them so much of a fun combination to think about is playing them both at the same time and playing Rod Blue on motion out of the slot, hunt match, because he can play down the field. It's like I said, if Jaden Blue would have been the guy that got hurt, you weren't going to see Cedric Baxter lined up at the slot running seam routes. It's not plug and play. So if one of these younger guys can come on and fill a role, maybe they don't have to adjust a lot. But we have a super chat, and I do think the interesting thing will be how much we won't see it as fans because The game was never played, but how much did maybe we hear behind the scenes they've had to adjust their Michigan game plan.
Yeah.
Freelance
Society. Thank you, Freelance Society, for the super chat. We appreciate it. Says here, Sark's game plan for Michigan changed drastically. Quinn will throw it 35 to 40 times in the game. This is why you don't want to necessarily have to throw it 35 to 40 times versus Michigan, because you got Wink Martindale there, who's probably the blitz happiest defensive coordinator that the NFL has seen in the last 10 years. I mean, that's just his MO. And if you have a running back in there, young running backs, whoever they are, he's going to test their ability to pick up the blitz. And he's also going to test that, that right side of that Texas offensive line.
They're bringing the heat over there.
They're going to bring the heat, and they come in with some really exotic pressure packages, lots of twists and stunts, lots of games on that side. Because Wink Martindale, and by the way, they're running the same system they ran with Mentor and McDonald. They've been running that they ran the Wink Martindale system. So now you got the original OG there to help run the same system. So it's not like they got to learn a new system. No, this is the same system they've been running. And you got the best corner in college football and the best D tackle duo in college football. You know, I don't know if you want to throw it 35 to 40 times. You could. It depends on if it's a high percentage passing game early on. If you're dropping Quinn back and you're talking about deeper vertical routes that are going to take time for those routes to develop, that could be a problem. But if you're talking about basic extensions of the running game, Freelance Society, you're talking about the screens, the smoke routes, the quick game, the RPO,
the extended handoffs. Game.
Essentially, you're talking about that kind of stuff, which is second nature for Quinn. Then, you could see maybe 30% of your passing game being that, 30 to 40% of it. And then that's when you up the early down pass rate for Quinn, which is what I think you need to do. His early down pass rate in early down pass rate should be closer to 60%. It should. I think that's your draft. That's your big change. Sark wants to be balanced. He wants to be a moderate. I think with the loss, you need to be a little bit more extreme in your belief. And he loves early down pass rate in big games. I'll go look at his early down pass rate in all of his big games. It's always 55 to 60%. I think now treat every game like a big game.
Yeah, I did the math on those opening drives, Rod. They were 76. So 76% were crazy. And not all of them were vertical, right? You know, and some of that's a lot of that mostly is to get the quarterbacks in rhythm, right? You know, it's great in a big basketball game to see your star player get an early bucket, have a elbow jumper. You drop a play to get him a good look, to get that rhythm going, that confidence moving. We see Sarkisian a lot of times. First play is just a quick screen, get the ball out, see what you're feeling like, and let's get moving from there. Of course, it also kind of sets up what Texas is looking at defensively in terms of game plan, how the defense is reacting to formations, blitzes, whatever, you know. And but again, it's all about getting the quarterback in rhythm early. It was interesting looking at Malik Murphy's 2 starts at Texas, BYU and Kansas. There wasn't a single handoff on either of the 2 drives that he led in that game. And you're sitting there thinking, wait a minute, this goes against everything that we were expecting coming into the game. Is maybe they protect the young quarterback who didn't have any starting experience. No. What did he do against Kansas State? Well, he aired it out really often in that first half. And he had a lot of success, right? That first quarter. What were the highlights? Well, it was a big bomb to A.D. Mitchell. And it was another one, I believe, to Xavier Worthy. So that was the one in which you sit back and say, okay, maybe we got something here. Against BYU was more that short game. Get the rhythm going, air it out, get the RPO, the screen games, whatever it is. Just let those quarterbacks get in a rhythm because they're going to need it later on. First possessions, first quarters, you're going to see that continue in 2024 with Quinn, even more so now with Baxter sidelined.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think K-State tried to play some man, didn't they? They wanted to early on. They tried to play some bump and run man, which was just did not work out well for them. But no, good stuff. I think either way, and that's a good point, Freelance Society. The early down pass rate, early down pass rate, I think has to increase. It only makes sense to put more on the plate of Quinn Ewers. All right, I know we got another super chat here and some more questions we will get to in just a second. But first, let's thank our friends at 40 Acres Apparel. I'm wearing it right now. Boom, my 40 Acres Apparel. We all are actually representing 40 Acres. We want to introduce you to 40 Acres Apparel. The University of Texas Co-op and 40 Acres Apparel have teamed up, and they're serving as a nonprofit that's been serving the Longhorn community since 1896. Every penny of profit directly benefits course material scholarships. In fact, over 7,000 students right now received free course material scholarships in the 23-24 academic year, thanks to 40 Acres Apparel and the University of Texas Co-op. 40 Acres Apparel was born in DKR, designed and built exclusively for the University of Texas and Longhorn Nation. Go down to University of Texas Co-op or go to universityoftexascoop.com and get geared up with 40 Acres Apparel. Great designs, fashionable, high quality, SPF 50, moisture wicking. It is fantastic, folks. Just a confession for me. I was wearing 40 Acres Apparel way before we started endorsing it here and at our partnership on Texas Football. It's been my game day fit for probably going on 5 years now. It's all great. I sweat a lot. I get overheated working overtime down there. Plus, it's hot outside. It's great. Kind of keeps you really cool. And also, it looks really good. They got a lot of great new designs out. You can go check it out for yourself at the University of Texas Co-op. So it looks great and feels great, and it's for a great cause as well. 40 Acres also a proud sponsor, like I said, of the course material scholarships for UT students. Thank you very much to 40 Acres Apparel. All right.
Hey, Ray, got a question for you.
Yes,
Do you know tomorrow, Saturday, how many days we are away from the start of the Texas season?
Tomorrow, what's today? 22? What's today? 22 or 23? 22? 21. Hey, 21, baby.
Rod Babers stays away.
Hey, there you go, baby. Like it. 2-1, baby. The 2-1. Hey, I'm hoping. Who's 2-1 now? Xavier feels to me? Is he 21?
Yes.
All right. Hey, I'm hoping. I hope he becomes the greatest 21 of all time. I no longer want the burden. I'll be the greatest 21 in Texas football history.
What are you going to do? What would you do if Ryan Wingo changed the 21 next year?
I would love it. That'd be great because I would just.
I would know it's over. You would know it's over.
You'd be the best defensive 21 of all time. Still,
that's true.
That's the spin zone.
That's true. I could go, but you know what's going to happen. It feels to me by the time he gets his starting job, he's going to change numbers. Everybody wants the single digits. The 21 is not cool anymore. So I probably will go down. I'll probably die as the greatest number 21 in Texas football, and that's fine with me. And you can put it
Tim Brewster would have put a 2.1 on that jersey if he could have. Hey, look, you're really number 2 here, but it's 0.1. He's
the one that told me. He told me, Jerry, I could get number 2. He's the one to say, "Oh yeah, you'll get what you." And then when I got there, he's like, "You don't want number 2. You want 21." So he changed up the sales pitch on me. But thank you guys. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. I really don't brag about that, but I've done the research, and the research. The evidence, it tells you I'm the greatest 21 in Texas. Yep. Thank you, UT boy. My dog. I appreciate that. But I don't want to be.
UT boy, I got a read coming up for you soon.
UT boy.
Right up your alley.
Hey, thank you, UT boy. We appreciate the love, man. Yeah, La Familia, baby. Appreciate that. All right, let's get right to it. UT boy didn't even have a question or anything. He's just showing love. UT boy, you're the best. We appreciate you. All right, let's get to Jose here. He's got a question in the super chat. Thank you very much, Jose, for the super chat. This is for Jerry and CJ. He says, which 5-star is Sark recruiting where he is the lead recruiter? Thanks for everything y'all do. Are head coaches ever the lead recruiters on anything?
Maybe not really. I mean, maybe if it's a quarterback that they have a prior relationship with, I wouldn't say lead recruiter. I think Sark is a very involved personal recruiter at the head coach position. Now, I will say this. He was probably the lead recruiter of Ryan Wingo because he was the one that was in contact with Ryan Wingo through his wide receiver coaching change. So Sark may have taken on that role somewhat with Ryan Wingo, especially and just transitioned it after that. After Marion left, Chris Jackson came in. But look, Chris Jackson and Sark are all over Jamie French, right? But Sark he's involved in all I haven't talked to CJ. I haven't talked to a kid that didn't talk to Sark regularly, whether that's through text, whether that's through phone call. So he is very much involved from a head coach position. And by the way, you have to be nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, like the story I always tell about Jonah Williams is I was at the Friendswood Galveston ball basketball game last year, and Dan Lanning was there, not for 10 minutes, not for 30 minutes. He was there for 3 hours. And that was after he'd come back from San Antonio to see Michael Terry. That's when the coaches were out on the road. So these head coaches, Kirby Smart, they're all very involved now. If you're not, you're getting your butt kicked.
You're from behind, 100%. I will add, Jerry, one of the recruitments in which I've heard Steve Sarkisian took a big step in terms of his involvement was right around the beginning of June when official visits started taking place. It was with Michael Terry. And what did you see around that time? Texas really started to make some headways with him following his June 7th official visit, going into July. And now in August, you're sitting around thinking, okay, is Texas actually out front of here? Well, if it's a lot in part because of Steve Sarkisian's involvement there, that Texas is, again, in that front seat for Michael Terry. Oregon, Nebraska, again, probably the two largest factors to watch around for. But Steve Sarkisian becoming more of a player in that recruitment turned at 180 in terms of direction for Texas there.
All right. Thanks for the super chat there. We appreciate that, Jose. All right. Oh, Joel. Wow. Look at this. Joel, man, that's a hell of a gift. We appreciate that, Joel. Wow. Hey, Joe, let me know what this means. Because I know you. Okay, so I'm reading. It seems like we had red zone problems last year. Now with Baxter out, who is going to be our best DT wide receiver this year? Love you guys. Thanks for all you do. Love you too, Joe. Hold on. What does DT wide receiver though mean? I don't
defensive tackle. They put in a short yardage.
I gotcha. Okay, all right. You know what? Thank you very much, Joe. Joe, you know what? That super chat, you know what? It deserves something special. Jerry, answer it, and I'm going to do something special for Joe.
Yeah, I was going to say I got to start dancing or something for that.
Oh gosh, look, that's interesting because Byron Murphy was a former high school a running back at a younger age till he grew into a defensive lineman. Tavondre Sweat kind of. Oh yeah, I like that.
You still got the visor on that?
Rod, you need to do a watch. You need to do a watch with us with that on for a quarter.
The buttons still work on this thing.
The visor.
Oh, there you go. Oh, the visor's so dirty I can barely see you guys. I can't barely see. All right, Joe, that's what you get. I would do a little bit of the show with the helmet on, just because my man Joe gave me a $50 super chat. Thank you very much, Joe. I got to get in. You know what I'm saying? Getting my mindset, the right mindset for game day. All right, good. Continue, Jerry. There you go. I'm comfortable in this thing. I used to do a lot of business in this thing.
I'm not sure there necessarily is that guy this year. I mean, could it be more of a edge player this year? Could you see a Baron Sorrell? Could you see an Ethan Burt more so this year? We'll see. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, look, a lot of that circumstance too. So we'll see. But there's not a Byron Murphy that was a high school running back necessarily, right? That just grew out of or junior high running back that grew out of the position. So we'll see on that, but that's pretty funny.
Could they actually throw it to Kaliq Lockett? He's running.
Yes, he played
last year.
Tight end in 7-on-7.
Yep. Caught a 4 or 5 yard out against Washington on a check down, believe it or not. Rod, that was one of the things whenever I go through all these first drives and red zone plays, I forgot about that play entirely. And I remember charting it a little bit and being like, who just caught that? It was Kaliq Lockett. So he's an option. I also think Alfred Collins might be a guy Texas leans on in that kind of Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, spot, right? I mean, we've seen his hands, a big interception against Colorado. He had the interception in the spring game. That's a guy with great athleticism for his size at 315, 320 pounds. Look for him. But Rod, CB had a great question. I mean, you got to do the Akina impression. You got one?
My Coach Akina impression. All right, I'll do it. It's easy because I can remember him telling me when I used to drop interceptions. Hey, Favors, you're just out there dropping money, man. What are you doing? Come on, man. You're just dropping cash on the field. Catch that interception, man. So I remember that because I dropped a lot of interceptions, and he'd always tell me I'm dropping money, and he was right. Caught the interception That's straight cash, homie, man, no doubt. And thank you for the straight cash, homie, Joe. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. All right, actually, this thing is pretty comfortable still. It's actually not bad. I hadn't worn it in a while. So
I can't believe you strap that thing all the way up, man. That's impressive.
It does make you. It is a flip of the switch, though. I do feel like I would like to go run a little bit in the backyard with this thing on, try to catch some passes. So I don't know.
Catch passes? Are you sure?
Very funny. See, I set myself.
That was low hanging fruit, Rod. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was too easy. I set you up on that one. That was a softball. All right, there you go. All right, any more? We get any more $50 and up super chats? I guess that's the.
Rod's putting on a uniform for $100.
Yeah, for $100. I don't know. I don't got nothing else I can put on. I don't have a neck roll. That's what David Keith asked about it. No neck roll. I don't know what else I can put on, actually. I don't have my pads, so I'll figure out something. I got some cleats somewhere. Maybe we can throw the cleats on. All right, thank you, guys. Joe, thank you very much. That was very kind of you. All right, let's get to some of the questions here because you guys have been throwing them out there. Tyrese wants to know, Rod, do you see offensive coordinator blitzing more whenever they see young, inexperienced backs on the field? Of course. I think Wink Martindale, that Michigan game now, I trust Trey Wisner, actually. So Trey Wisner out there, I trust him in pass protection. I think Jaden Blue's going to be fine in pass protection. They say that to short choice because of his NFL background that he is obsessed with running backs and pass protection because in the NFL that you're protecting the most valuable asset in the franchise. So you don't see the field if you can't pass protect at all. They don't give a damn how good you are at toting the rock and how valuable you are in the passing game. You got to be able to pass protect, understand pass blocking schemes. So the short choice, he's pretty much he's obsessive with it. So I think ultimately those two guys will be fine, and they won't put that young guy out there, whoever he is. Maybe it's Christian Clark, maybe it's Jerry Gibson. He won't be out there unless he's at least competent. And he might listen, and he might get bowled over one time in pass protection. You know what I mean? Or a guy may get around him, but that's fine. That's a technique issue, right? That's a fundamental. We can coach that up. But if there's a time where he's actually not there and say a guy's got a clean shot at your quarterback, unimpeded to the quarterback, that's a problem. That means you're not assignment sound, and we can't even coach you up on the technique. So as long as the guy's in the right place, hey man, sometimes he's gonna, a guy's gonna make a play. As Mac Brown used to say, they're on scholarship too. All right, we can coach that up. Even CJ, you tell the story about DeMarvin Overshown getting the best of Bijan in practice in one of those pass blocking drills. It happens, man, when you go up against a great athlete. We can coach that up, but they got to be in the right place. But you're right, blitz. I think you're going to get more blitzing anyway, period, in the SEC. And even was that Jackson Dart who talked about the Pac-12 being a drop 8, more of a drop 8 league, and the Big 12 is kind of a drop 8 league. That is not the SEC. I think you'll get more blitzing in the SEC anyway overall.
Yep. I agree. And that'll be the big point, right? You have talented tackles if you're Texas, but to face those edge rushers week in and week out, you're going to have help from your tight ends. You're going to have help from your running backs. And that's really where this conversation kind of stems from, is those young running backs. And that, in my eyes, also includes Trey Wisner a little bit as well. What are they doing the little extra to help that offensive line and that quarterback to make sure that ball is not being sacked for a 7-8 yard loss or being turned over? That'll be the key little parts that we're looking for this fall, when they're going into the live situations on Saturday.
All right. Let's get to some more questions. LL. I wonder if that's LL like LL Cool J. LL stands for Ladies Love. We'll see. But LL, thank you for the question here. It says, fellas, over under 3.5 D tackles signed in December. Whew. That's a lot.
I lean a little under right now. Texas is going to have to do work in the portal regardless of how many they take this year. Again, when you look at the room of defensive tackles and just the ages in which all of these guys are, you're going to see a lot of departures there anyways. I don't know. With the recent news of DJ Sanders and Texas only having Josiah Sharma, I think it's going to take a lot of late work. And I'm not saying Texas can't get up to 4. I think it's a little late in this cycle right now for Texas to achieve 4 guys in this class at the defensive line. I think 3 is attainable, and I think 3 is the goal at the moment. But I think certainly you're going to be seeing Texas be very active once again in the portal to get big bodies on that defensive line for 2025. They're just going to have to be.
The key with that number may also be one of the things I've mentioned a couple of times is, since Kenny Baker got the Texas late, he didn't get a chance to really go in person evaluate the 25 class. Not many of those guys, especially in the Southeast part of the country. He's from Georgia. It wouldn't shock me if an offer to went out during the season on a couple of guys that they may think are really good, but Kenny hadn't got a chance to see in person. Maybe if he does during the season. But I think 3.5 is an interesting number because I think Texas would be happy with 3 right now, unless they find somebody they think is really good too, or they go back in on a Derry Norris and see what could happen there.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff, guys. How about this one from David Keith Williams, always coming with great questions. David Keith says, what recruit do you think is most important for UT to get a commitment from? UT is in position for 4 5-star recruits, but I think Myron Charles might be the most important recruit for UT. Gentlemen, your thoughts?
I mean, in terms of building a football team, it's always the trenches that's more important to me, right? You got a 5-star tackle option still available. That would probably go pretty high on my list. Myron Charles, of course, is a very talented defensive lineman, and we've talked about the importance of Tavondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, guys that are game breakers, right in the middle of a defense. That leans me to believe that, those trench guys are a bit higher in priority. Again, we just saw Texas with only 8 returning receptions on the roster at the wide receiver spot, flip an entire roster with 3 portal additions. So, yes, it's important to get these guys on campus as true freshmen so you can mold and develop them how you see fit. But at the same time, wide receiver and, to an extent, cornerback, but a little bit less, that's the most, plentiful position in all of college football. You can go out and add bodies there. Game changers may be a little bit, different. But, we did see Texas add 3 really, really talented guys while still being, in positions for, a Juice Wells, a CJ Daniels, some of these Deion Burks guys in which also had great production at the wide receiver spot. That's why I think you can miss on top wide receivers and still feel like you have the option to have great talent at that spot each year, especially in a Sark offense. You got to get your big time talent on the trenches, and you got to do it early to get them how you want to see fit for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think if you count guys committed elsewhere, I think Myron Charles is a really good way to go, DK Williams. If you talk about guys uncommitted, I'll just say that it would sting a lot if Texas didn't get French right now for them.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. That's a good question, though, about who's the most important recruit, kind of the linchpin. We talk about the linchpin recruits of some of these recruiting classes. You get one, and it just kind of leads to a whirlwind of momentum in the recruiting class. All right, before we get back to the questions, I thank another one of our sponsors. We appreciate the good folks over at Flat Creek Estate Winery for being part of the Owen, Texas football family. And did you know that the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin, Texas? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. It's now available at your local spec, so you can give it a try there. It's also at Central Market. I know that because my wife does some shopping there, and she saw it, and she was pretty giddy because it's actually her favorite wine now. She loves Super Texan, but also all the great wines they have available courtesy of Flat Creek Estate. They have a great rosé. It is fantastic, especially during the hot Texas summer days. It'll cool you off, really refreshing. They have a Pinot Grigio that's also available. But the Super Texan, trust me, folks, it is it's right now the home run, the grand slam winner for all the awards right now. But Flat Creek, also a gorgeous venue. You can go check it out. They have barbecues and wine tasting every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. Go check it out today. Flat Creek Estate Winery at flatcreekestate.com. That's flatcreekestate.com. All right. Thank you very much for sponsoring our Friday live stream. All right. Getting back to the questions here. How about this one? Justin says, is this the first time Coach Sark has lost a starting running back?
Great question.
I did research on that for the season. I'm sure there's been injuries where you've had to obviously utilize other guys. That's just the nature of football. But a guy losing a running back for the season, I'm not sure about that, CJ. I know you do a lot of research and deep diving, rabbit holing, as I like to call it. Do you recall that? I don't know. I haven't done the research.
I don't know off the top of my head in the preseason, maybe, but
Okay.
I mean, a year ago, we saw what happened with Jonathan Brooks, right? And saw that elevation of CJ Baxter and Jaden Blue last year. At this point in the year, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked, a whole lot at his Washington and USC days. I don't think it happened at Bama, but it is a great question. And, again, Jerry pointed it out at the very beginning. This is their job to make sure that there are contingency plans in place for when a big name goes down and isn't available for a week to week or an entire season, to make sure that that team doesn't skip a beat and still holds some of that, anticipation and expectations for a given season coming into the year. So you got to trust the guys that are making the money to do this job. And that's what we'll do right now, I guess.
Okay. All right. We know we're getting close to the end of it, so we'll try to knock out a couple of more questions before we get out of here. Oh, Justin with a super chat. Thank you very much, Justin. We appreciate that. God bless you, brother. Okay, so Quinn was sacked 27 times last season, even with Baxter out. That number needs to go down. Thoughts where that number needs to be. Great work, like always, fellas. Thank you, Justin, for the super chat. We appreciate you. It's a great question about the sacks number. What do you think that number should be at? You got an experienced offensive line, 4 out of 5 stars returning, and experienced quarterback, Jerry.
Well, I think if the number is about the same, that's a net positive because I think Texas is going to be playing against better teams this year.
Oh, that's a good point. Great point.
I mean, Michigan, Georgia, Deion Walker, Kentucky, higher level athletes in the SEC schedule. If Texas has 27 sacks again this year, I think that's a net positive. If Texas gets down below 25 this year, I actually think that's a huge positive, especially considering your right tackle is a first-year starter. I don't care how experienced the other guys are. Your right tackle is a first-year starter, and he's a tremendous player. He could end up being Amarius Mims and going in the first round after year one if he has a really good season. It's not out of question. But to me, the schedule's so much more difficult Texas is really playing some of the cream of the crop defensive line, individual players, and probably defensive lines you could face on this schedule. I mean, Georgia, A&M, Michigan, they're playing some real defensive lines.
Agreed.
That number felt a little high, so I looked it up, and it was actually correct. That's about 2 sacks a game that Texas is allowing. For reference, 20 sacks is right around the 40th mark in the country. Texas was right around 82, 81 with 27 and a half allowed a game or a season. So it's below average, right? Even with 2 extra games to your 12-game regular season, it's a lot. And, you start looking at some of those elite offensive lines. Oregon allowed 5 all year, right? Washington, the Joe Moore Award winner, 12. Georgia, 13. So some of these schools are well below the 20 mark. And if Texas wants to get into that conversation to be the best offensive line, as we've kind of talked about, that ceiling being a possibility, they're going to have to be below 20 sacks this season, and I think well below it. And that as well plays into what we think Quinn needs to do in terms of pressure recognition in front of him, sack avoidance, and also getting rid of the football a little bit earlier at times this year. That's all just familiarity with the system and also being an older, more experienced quarterback and offensive line. That'll come this year. I'm with you, Jerry. I think you'll see that number well below what we saw a year ago with 27.
Yeah.
Rod, the question I have for you, a spin-off of that is, so Oregon gets the ball out really quick, right? They're going to get the ball out quick, and that's why you recruit Dylan Gabriel as well, right? They're going to get the ball out quick. Sark has longer developing pass plays, right? Yep. So they have more sack opportunities for an opponent. But that's kind of one of the things I am looking at with what Sark may have to do to change a little bit with the Baxter injury is it going to be more of a quicker ball out offense at times this year because you lost your pass protector, and that is you lost kind of what you wanted to do with some of those longer developing pass plays from the running back position, which does matter in that scheme.
Yep, and I think what you'll get, and we saw a little sneak preview of it last year with that Big 11, Big 12 package, the 6-0 line package, and even I thought, oh, he's going to do that and try to play bully ball, and he actually didn't. It was a rope-a-dope. What he did, it was another added layer of insulation of pass protection. So what he did, a lot of their deeper vertical routes, the longer developing routes, he threw those out of the Big 11, Big 12 package, and essentially just had 6 offensive linemen out there. And didn't even use Malik Agbo in that way. So, but his what he's betting on is that the speed that he brings to the table and that he covets, that he can outrun, a lot of defensive backs if they just have more time for the routes to develop. And Quinn can make all the throws, which he can. So that's why your yards per attempt, I can give that to you another time. They went through the roof out of that 6 line package, but the yards per rush pretty much stayed the same. Actually, I think they might have dropped even a little bit. But Sark's intention was to get the ball downfield. So maybe you'll just see more of that, of him having more max protection scenarios where he's trying to get the ball downfield. But I'm with you, Jerry. Ball coming out quick. Another added layer of insulation of pass protection when the ball's out in under 2.5 seconds. All right, good stuff there. All right, before we, I'm gonna ask my man Jerry to give you guys a message from our friends at Duck Camp. But before we do that, I want to give you guys a message. It is a great time right now to join the exclusive Longhorn community at OwenTexasFootball.com. Become an OTFOG. You can talk with us each and every day. Get your questions answered. Plus, there's even more news and commentary. You can join us over at OwenTexasFootball.com. Become an OTFOG, folks. You use that promo code and you can save a lot of straight cash, homie. They're running a special. You can save $20 off an annual subscription. Get it for $39.95, usually about $60 a year, but you can get a great deal on it. There you go, right there. The promo code OTFOG. Thank you very much to my man Matthew behind the scenes. Got great things happening here at Owen Texas Football, building a great team with Jerry Hamilton, with my man Bobby Burton and CJ Vogel and Blake Monroe. Matthew behind the scenes. It's a great group. All right, let's tell you about another sponsor of our Friday live stream, our good friends at Duck Camp. I'm representing. Tell us about Duck Camp, Jerry.
Well, UT boy, he may have exited. I said I have a read for you, man. Duck Camp gear is made for the people that live for the moments out there, whether they are fish to catch down on Lake Palestine, birds to hunt, time to kill, football to watch. They like doing all that stuff, so they built a company centered on it, based in Austin, and dedicated to giving people best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel. There are those of you out there that look forward to opening day of hunting season and the kickoff of Longhorn football with the fervor and excitement of a 5-year-old on Christmas morning, and Duck Camp is here to let you know that. From opening day to game day, Duck Camp's got you covered. At Duck Camp, they believe you can't just sit around and wait for the adventure to come to you. You have to get out there, stay out there, and make the most of every second. Here's to a great seasons, y'all. Yes, hunting and football. Shop hunting gear at duckcamp.com. It's Duck Camp Friday.
And I also believe they just got some of their new gear in too. So you go check out the website. I went over there. They got some really cool new stuff in. I believe their fall collection maybe coming in for them. So go check it out. Thank you, Jerry, for that. A couple of more questions before we get out of here. Joe says, since I guess I now have established, I will put on my helmet and do a segment with my helmet on. If I get a $50 super chat at least. Joe says $500 super chat. Bobby has to run the 40 or read the Manscaped read for a month. I think I want to. No, actually, I don't want to see Bobby run the 40. I think he'll hurt something. I think he'll pull something. And then
I think he'd rather do that than read the Manscaped ad. I'll tell you that.
For a month, just 140. He could just kind of,
Hey, that old groin won't feel as bad for 4.5 weeks than it will for the Manscaped ad.
You know how when you go to the dog races and they have the little fake rabbit going around the track? If we put like a picture of Brett Yormark and made Bobby chase it, that would be worth a $500 super chat.
Oh yeah, ask Bobby the last time he sprinted. Period. I mean, it's probably been a while. So
he put the big Texas hat on that he has as one of those Nike Spark parachutes to train in.
That I would like to see. Rick has an interesting. I want to know this too. Who's the lead recruiter on Terry?
It's kind of everybody. It's an everybody. Like CJ mentioned this earlier in the live stream, but when he was on his official visit, I mean, it's Sark, it's AJ Milwee, it's Tashard Choice, and Chris Jackson really wasn't that involved early. He's gotten involved because look, Texas will give Michael Terry a shot at wide receiver, and then it's up to him whether it works or not, and then you figure it out after that. But it's kind of an all-encompassing offensive staff recruitment minus Kyle Flood.
Wow, I like that. Team recruitment. All right, these are the last two kind of questions of the day, and I'm gonna combine them here. Mav12 says if Texas wins Jonah Williams, do y'all think that helps out recruiting down in Galveston County in the future? And then Rick throws out, is Jonah Williams one of the top 2 or 3 safeties in the country? And does Texas have a legitimate shot at him? I'll start with the Rick one, with the Rick question here. I can't. I said this after I watched his film. I cannot imagine that there are 2 or 3 safeties in the country better than Jonah Williams. If there are, their film must be unbelievable. Because that dude's film tells me he's one of the top 5 best safeties in the country pretty easily. And I don't know if I'd put 2 or 3 of them above him. But Jerry, you know better than I do. You've watched more.
Yeah, he's an elite talent. I mean, anybody that his size that moves like he does, the arm length he does. I mean, he's an elite football prospect. There's no doubt about it. As far as the Galveston County, yes, to me, these recruitments are more individualized than they used to be. And maybe that's because of NIL. Maybe that's because of social media in their accelerated recruiting processes. So, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think they're too individual of recruitments nowadays. It doesn't hurt, but I'm not sure it's going to be the difference maker in the next guy from Galveston Ball or at Hitchcock. I mean, look, Kelshawn Johnson's going to A&M. I mean, if Jonah Williams picks Texas, I'm not sure Kelshawn immediately flips to Texas, right? So these recruitments are all different nowadays, but it doesn't hurt because Jonah is a known kid in Galveston County.
Definitely.
Yeah, I see a Kyle Hamilton starter like kid pretty much. I mean, that kid's got great instincts too. On the video game, I would give him a 98 awareness. Be through the roof, CJ. All right. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank our good friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery for hooking us up. Also, 40 Acres Apparel, always representing. Our friends at Duck Camp for being part of the On Texas football family. Really excited about that. Thank you very much to all you guys for the super chats. Joe, appreciate that, man. The $50 super chat. You started a tradition on the show. The tradition is, if we get a super chat for at least 50, Rod B got to put the helmet on. Boom. I love that. All right. That's the
good one.
Thank you very much for that, Joe. We appreciate all you guys and all the love.
Let me get my wallet out, Rod.
Hey, make it rain. We're cool with that. Also, thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. Matthew is the real MVP. It couldn't happen without him. We appreciate him. All throughout the weekend, anything that you guys want to highlight from the weekend, Jerry?
Scrimmage, 9:45 in the morning. So come check out ontexasfootball.com. We'll all have thoughts, news on that. Bobby, CJ, myself, we'll all have news on that. Scrimmage, again, 9:45 in the morning. Today was more of a lighter, almost walk-through practice. But first scrimmage tomorrow, 9:45 in the morning, and we'll have video afterwards as well. It's not open to the public, but we'll be reporting on it.
Exactly. It ain't open to the public, but on Texas football, that's why we are here. We're here for you. We'll get all the news, all the updates that you need. Thank you guys very much. Like I said, Joe, once again, appreciate you guys. We love you guys. We appreciate all y'all do. For Matthew, for Jerry, for my man CJ, for our good friends at Flat Creek State Winery, for Duck Camp as well, and for 40 Acres Apparel. Until next time, same channel. Hook 'em horns. Have a great weekend, guys.